Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this new invitation. In this brief presentation, we'll attempt to dismantle the idea that sport is just a game. Sport is actually a giant mirror of society, reflecting our inequalities, our conflicts, and our power struggles. Have you ever wondered why some sports are considered elites and others popular? Or why soccer is so strongly associated with masculinity? Sport is not neutral. Far from being just exercise, it's a complex social phenomenon. To understand this, let's review the key ideas of four fundamental thinkers. The first is Pierre Bourdieu and the idea of sport as a marker of class. Bourdieu taught us that our bodies and the sports we play reflects our social class. The idea of habitus, they are the taste and disposition we internalize from childhood. For example, someone growing up playing golf versus someone growing up playing soccer in the street. It's not a coincidence, it's a class habitus. Sport is a field with its own rules and power structures, economic, social, cultural. In short, sports reproduce the social structures. The second thinker is Walter Brach, and the idea of deconstructing the myth of fair play. Brach was more critical. He analyzed how school physical education has served to discipline bodies and reproduce dominant values. His call to desnaturalize sports, that is, to question everything we take for granted. Is sport really equal for everyone? Does it always promote meritocracy? He invites us to a critical pedagogy that questions the might of sport. The third thinker is my friend Liz Meyer's Sport and Identity. Liz Meyer focuses on how we construct our identity through sports, whether in a gym or a neighborhood team or a yoga class. The moving body is a vehicle for expressing and shaping who we are. Sport is space where we negotiate and transform our sense of belonging. Then the fourth thinker is David Kirk, the crisis of physical education. Kirk identified the traditional model of physical education, teaching sport techniques to the most skilled, as excursionarity and increases. He proposed alternative models such as teaching game for understanding, which prioritizes inclusion and tactical understanding over elite performance. The idea is that everyone should have mindful experience, not just those who are already good. The challenges of the futures are already here. Where is the study of sport headed? It's becoming much more complex. We can think in the intersectionality beyond social class. It's no longer enough to analyze class. Now we must look at how gender, race, age, and ability intersects. Gender, what is rugby of school of masculinity, while rhythmic gymnastic is feminicide? What about trans athletes who challenges these categories? Racial segregation in European soccer position, or how the bodies and practice of indigenous or Afro-descendant communities are exoticized. Then we think in digital technology too. The body is no longer just physical, it's now data. Data enhanced body, wearables, bracelets, watches, turns your body into metrics, heart rates. Where does privacy stand? Are bodies now miserable objects? E-sport, it is a professional gamer, an athlete? I think no. How are identities forming in online communities? This reference what we understand by bodily practice. Then, in this way, we can think in global commodification, hyper commodification. Global capitalism has taken over sports on a brutal scale. Mega events, the Olympic Games of the World Cup are not just a party. They are a machine of gentrification, public debt and repression. The rhetoric of unity and legacy is a myth that must be deconstructed. Leagues like the Premier League drain talent and research from peripheral countries, creating a highly inequal global sports system. Well, in this way, we can think in action, promote social justice. All these theories are useful if we don't put into practice. How do we can translate critique into transformation actions? We can think in public policies, municipal programs which save hours for women-free activities in marginalized neighborhoods and genuine inclusion of social with disabilities. Apply critical pedagogies using correct model in schools so that children not only play but also ask, why is this sport for boys and that one for girls? Community sports using sport as links measures suggest for social cohesion, conflict resolution, and the empowerment of marginalized communities. Well, the last word, the tax is the end. It's what we must do. Bridge counters, continuing to deconstruct sport. Our mission is also to deconstruct the algorithm, the global mega events, biometric data, and the intersection of operations. The ultimate goal is to reclaim a space where the body is subject, as Bear will say, with all its diversity and potential, is the true protagonist. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.